Tensions are clearly rising between the United States and China. Last week, China said that it was ready for any kind of war with the US. This is worrying, especially for Southeast Asia, because this region is linked to both superpowers, and a conflict between them would certainly affect Southeast Asia. So, is there something that ASEAN can do? Can it proactively try to get these two superpowers to talk? Is it time for a secret meeting, perhaps, to be convened by ASEAN to bring together America and China? Of course, it is not going to be easy, but here are several reasons why I think ASEAN should seriously consider convening such a meeting. But first, these kind of meetings are not new. They have been employed in many instances around the world. For example, between North Korea and the United States, Kuala Lumpur hosted a secret meeting sometime in the early 2000s to allow both these countries to sit down quietly and talk about resolving the differences. The Oslo meeting that eventually paved the way forward for the discussion on the two-state solution also began in a quiet form as well. There have been many other meetings of such kinds, particularly when the stakes are very high. The parties need to be able to talk in a venue which is free from the glare of spotlight. These kind of meetings are useful. Recently, the meeting between the United States and Russia in Saudi Arabia is also one good example. Once the meeting had been convened, then of course you find that several other follow-up meetings can be held. So it is in this context I'm talking about ASEAN hosting a meeting for the United States and China so that they can talk out of the glare. Why do I say that ASEAN must act now? There are 6 reasons why I think it is time for ASEAN to consider making such a move. Top of the list is the rising tensions between the United States and China. As we have seen in the last weeks and months, the positions taken by the two countries are actually hardening. They are not backing off from these tensions. China said that it is ready for any kind of war. The US is not backing off. The trade war between the two countries is intensifying. And what it means is that ASEAN currently is already caught in the center because it is feeling the heat of these tensions. And if nothing is done, it is bound to split ASEAN because member states would be forced to try and align with either one or the other. And this is something that is detrimental to the region. Number 2 is economic disruption. ASEAN has too much vested in the stability of this region. A conflict between the United States and China would certainly disrupt the supply chains. Maritime traffic is going to be affected. ASEAN's position as the 5th largest, going on to be the 4th largest economy in the world, would become dashed. Its plans to grow digital economy as major economic drivers of the region would certainly be affected as well. So there's a lot of issues going on for ASEAN here, and for ASEAN it is important to maintain stability of the region so that its plans for long-term growth can be realized. Number 3 is security risk. Well, it goes without saying, just look at the map, a conflict between the United States and China would certainly affect the South China Sea. And this is already a region of tensions because of the overlapping claims between the ASEAN claimant states and China, and a conflict between the US and China would certainly heighten tensions and perhaps even skirmishes between China and some of the member states. So this is a major concern for ASEAN. Number 5, a conflict between the United States and China would certainly bring also other forms of conflicts over resources in the region. So we are bound to see tensions rising over the restricted energy resources, perhaps, and conflict over the environmental resources in the region. And number 6, a conflict between the US and China would also bring in other players as well. We are going to see perhaps major powers like Japan, South Korea, Europe, Australia, all of them would be drawn into this conflict, and very soon the peace and stability that had been built over the last close to 60 years now would be reversed. Are there rewards for convening such a meeting? Of course there is. The country that convenes this meeting, first of all, will go down in history as for convening this important meeting. But for ASEAN, it will solidify its position as a major geopolitical player, a player of importance in this part of the world. That is an important goal to achieve, and it would contribute immensely towards ASEAN's ambitions to maintain its centrality in the region. So why is a secret meeting important? Well, as you already know, the tensions between the US and China are out there in the open. The positions taken by both parties are hardening day by day. Therefore, it is difficult for either one of them to call for a meeting to talk about the differences. So this kind of meetings must be held in a neutral venue, away from the glare of the media and the lights, so that they can sit and actually have a meaningful discussion about their own issues and problems, so that they can find a meaningful way to manage them going forward. So, which is why these kinds of meetings are important. Such a meeting in a neutral venue can reduce political posturing, because the meetings are taking place outside the glare of the media, and this in turn would facilitate identifying perhaps creative solutions to managing this difficult relationship. It would also help build trust and confidence between the two major powers. And finally, it would empower ASEAN as a player in this part of the world. So what should ASEAN do? First and foremost, I think ASEAN needs to present a unified stance that they are seriously keen on bringing these two powers together, because it is of interest to everyone. Number 2, ASEAN must frame the narrative correctly. It is certainly not about ASEAN driving this meeting, because there's no way 10 small countries can drive a meeting between two major powers. The narrative should be about a group of concerned countries, friends of both US and China, trying to get all on the same page, so that everyone can work out satisfactory solutions moving forward. And number 3, and I think this is the most important, ASEAN must act discreetly. These efforts require a lot of diplomatic legwork, shuttling between capitals, actively engaging all the parties together. First, ASEAN needs to get all its 10 members on the same page on this idea, and after that it needs to engage China and the US, so that both would be clear as to the intentions of this meeting. So this requires a great deal of diplomatic work, and I think ASEAN is has the experience of this kind of work, because it has been involved in the resolution of the Cambodian conflict. So yes, take back its old expertise and dust them and put them to use. And now the most important and most interesting question: where should this meeting be held? Well, since Malaysia is the chair of ASEAN in 2025, perhaps it may consider some of the cities in the country. Kota Kinabalu, for example, comes to my mind as the best choice today. But tell me, what do you think? Where do you think these meetings can be held? It need not necessarily be held in Malaysia. It can be held in any part of Southeast Asia. Write down your choices in the comments. Thank you very much.